Yeah. In filling in for Michael, I know that I don't have the knowledge that he has, the information. So don't expect it to be a A1 grade lesson, although he did write it. So that is in my favor. Start off by asking Elohim to be with us. Father Yahweh, we praise you this night. We come together to learn your words, to honor you, to worship you. We just may your words be life to us. We just thank you and praise you in Yahshua's name. Amen. Parsha Korach. Although it's not nearly the whole parasha, we take, or Michael takes just a portion and expounds on it, and it comes out us knowing more than what we started with. Okay. This week's Torah portion is called Korach. In last week's Parsha, Hebrews threatened to replace Moshe as their leader. Because of their fear of the giants in the Promised Land, their unbelief that they were able to overcome these giants and take the land that Yahweh promised them, they were ready and willing to forsake the promises of Yahweh and return to Egypt. Yeah, they were crying. They wanted. They were afraid to step out. They didn't have the relationship with Yahweh that we are working on. So they didn't really know him. They wanted to turn back and go to where they thought security was. In this week's Torah study, rebellion continues with the mutiny against Moshe's leadership by a man called Korach. We will begin our study by looking a little closer at the first verse of this Parsha in Numbers 16:1. Now Korach, the son of Izhar, and I'm not going to say that I'm going to pronounce all these names correctly. Izhar, the son of Korach, the son of Levi, with Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, the son of Peleth, sons of Reuben, took men. Begin by considering the first two words together, which are Veyichach Korach, meaning, and Korach took. When we look at the word for took, which is lachach, we find a word that more specifically means to lay hold of, to seize, and to take away. If we look at the name Korach and consider its meaning, its many meanings, we will begin to formulate an idea to consider from this verse. Korach means two things specifically. It means ice, and it means to be bald. The Proto-Hebrew shows us that to be cold is to be uncovered. And it is from this we can formulate our first idea, in that when we rebel against the instruction or even against the authority established by Yahuwah Elohim, we are uncovered and we grow cold. We can also state this idea in that when we grow cold or indifferent to the instructions or the authority established by Yahuwah Elohim, he withdraws from us, leaving us without covering. If we were to consider the symbols found in the Proto-Hebrew writings of Korach, then we would see the Kaf as a circle bisected by a line illustrating the sun on the horizon, a separation of light from the darkness, or how it is perceived. In the Resh we have the head of a man illustrating authority, and in the Het we see a wall illustrating separation, either inside or outside of the wall. What we can formulate from these drawings is the idea of either seeing the light of authority and being within its walls, or seeing only the darkness, blind to authority, and as a result being outside of the wall. Michael has talked before about the meaning of most words can go either for or against, and that's what this is saying, that it's going to end up being our choice to choose whichever way we want to go. Having read the Parsha, we know that this is a story about rebellion against Yahuwah, led by Korach. And considering this, we must compose our idea with the negative side of these definitions, which would give us the following idea to think about. When we become cold or indifferent to the instructions or the authority established by Yahuwah Elohim, he withdraws from us, leaving us without his covering. When we see only the darkness, we are blind to his authority, and as a result, we are outside of the wall, hidden behind a wall of sin. And that's where Adam and Hava were. They okay, that thought just went, never mind. In this we can formulate the idea that the condition that we have just discussed, lachak, lays a hold of, seizes, and takes away. It adversely affects our physical worship. So in adding this to our idea, we conclude the following. When we become cold or indifferent to the instruction of the authority established by Yahuwah Elohim, he withdraws from us, leaving us without his covering. When we see only the darkness, we are blind to his authority, and as a result, we are outside of the wall, hidden behind a wall of sin. Oh, okay. The rest of it, that's where Adam and Eve were, as Adam and Hava. The garden doesn't mean necessarily garden. Gan Eden is actually to be translated Elohim is he delights in being our hedge of protection, and that has been lifted from us now. So it's a garden in that, yeah, it was a place of perfectness for a while, but he turned his back and is no longer that hedge of protection, especially to the people, to the churches right now that don't know that they are so far outside of his teaching, outside of his authority. Lachak took, lays a hold of, seizes, and takes away. It adversely affects our physical worship. If we consider how we might literally read this verse, we would read, now Korach took the son of Izhar, the son of Levi, the son of Korath, the sons of Abiram, and Dathan of Peleth, the son and On of Eliab of Reuben, sons. Then we will see what this rebelliousness brings. Izhar means shining oil, but its Proto-Hebrew meaning is to be pressured, to be an enemy, to have trouble, distress, and affliction. Levi means joined to from the Proto-Hebrew. It means not just the joining of people to people, but of being joined to debt. Kohath means assembly, or to ally oneself to something. Abiram means my father is exalted, from a root that means to exalt and magnify oneself. Dathan means belonging to a fountain. Peleth means swiftness as well as to flee or run away. On means wealth, but comes from a root that means trouble, wickedness, sorrow, iniquity, and idolatry. Eliab means El is my father. The Proto-Hebrew of this name illustrates being from a house of authority and having the power to judge. Reuben means behold a son, from the root ra'ah, that means to perceive and discern, and beneh, that although it does mean sons, comes from the root banah, that means to establish or to restore. When we thus consider from these what is laid a hold of or seized and what is taken away, we can see that when we become cold or indifferent to the instructions or the authority established by Yahuwah Elohim, He withdraws from us, leaving us without His covering. When we see only the darkness, we are blind to His authority, and the result, we are outside of the wall, hidden behind a wall of sin. Lachak, took, means lays a hold of, seizes, and takes away. It adversely affects our physical worship. We lay a hold of or seize. Izhar, pressure, trouble, distress, and affliction. Levi, we take on or are rejoined to a debt that we cannot pay. Kohath, we are allied to ourselves, as we are now to be Abiram exalted. We magnify ourselves. Others don't always share our enthusiasm towards how great we are. Self gets in the way quite a bit. What is Peleth swiftly taken away is Eliab, our inheritance in the house of our father Elohim, which leaves us on with believing that we are wealthy, when in reality we are in trouble and in wickedness, enslaved again to idolatry and iniquity. It is our darkened perception that makes it difficult to see Reuben, our ability to clearly perceive and discern in what we are truly sons established, and in what we are truly restored. The Parsha tells us that Korach was not satisfied to do simply what Elohim had appointed him and his family to do. It had been given to the children of Kohath to carry the most sacred of utensils, including the ark. Korach wanted to serve as priest. He's the one that wanted it, not being appointed to it. He wanted to step up his position, be part of the in crowd, more or less. He wanted to serve as priest, which was given to the children of Aharon. It is in this that we can apply our concept too. Yahuwah Elohim calls us to a specific task, and we are to do everything we can to fulfill that calling. This in itself is a major part of keeping the Shema. When we see ourselves as more than what Elohim has called us to do, we make ourselves Elohim, and in doing so we break the first 3 commandments. Without first realizing that we have become rebellious and as such spiritually poor, Teshuvah cannot be made, and it is in this state of being that very quickly sends us spiraling downward, cold and indifferent to Elohim or his instructions, and in a sense naked without his covering. We know that the Ha-Adam, after the sin, that he never made teshuvah. He didn't turn and say, "I'm sorry, Father, forgive me, I return to you." So he was sentenced, I guess you could say, that he would be outside of the protection of Elohim, in the same way that Moshe did, that when he was disobedient, he never, or at least I say never, there are no records that he ever made teshuvah, so he didn't get to go into the promised land. Elohim loves peace, and his spirit dwells in peace. Elohim, on the other hand, hates strife, discord, and division in his assembly, calling the one who sows them an abomination. Proverbs 6 tells us this, starting in verse 16. There are 6 things which Yahuwah hates, yes, 7 which are an abomination unto him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked thoughts, feet that are swift in running to evil, a false witness that breathes out lies, and he that sows discord among his brethren. That's pretty nasty stuff there. It says Elohim hates it, and they are an abomination unto him by not obeying his word. The Parsha of Korach is also called the Parsha of Machloket, strife, since it was Korach that created division, strife, and disaster within the congregation through his rebellion and discontent. The name Korach comes from the root Koracha, which means to split. In this Torah portion, Korach and his co-conspirators accused Moshe of hoarding power and being greedy for more. It is, however, this sin that was in reality their own sin. And in watching or listening to different sermons or teachings, if you would, if somebody harps on one particular sin, then they are, and this is a usually, it's nothing that you could put, but they will talk about the sin that they are in, whether they know it or not. Okay, where'd I go? Okay. How many people in this world are guilty of this type of self-deception? We must realize that people often unknowingly judge others for the very sins that they themselves are committing. Paul had this to say at Romans 2:1. You therefore have no excuse, you who pass judgment on someone else, for at whatever point you judge another, you are condemned yourself, because you who pass judgment do the same things. People at times do not recognize that what they are doing or saying is wrong or hurtful. They have simply justified to themselves that their way is the right way. This, however, does not change the fact that it is considered an abomination in the eyes of Yahuwah Elohim. There is wisdom in being able to see and understand the motivation of one's creating strife before making judgment and issuing condemnation for actions taken or words spoken. It's like they say, once you have spoken a word, it's out there. So you have a guard to place over your mouth, and it's called you. As mentioned earlier, Elohim calls us and appoints us to the work He requires from us. We do not or should not pick and choose. Usually when somebody tries to do what they want to do, it always seems to not work. Some way or another, as the words would be, that it turns around and bites them for wanting their own, wanting to be appointed to what they want, rather than what Elohim wants for them. We read in our story that Elohim himself had made the priesthood and outlined the duties of the Levites. Korach and his followers were therefore in rebellion against the authority of Elohim. As we read earlier, Elohim chose the family of Korach to be caretakers of the tabernacle as well as its structure and vessels. They were to be servants to the Aaronic priesthood. While all Levites serve Elohim, Aaron and his descendants held the special appointment of being able to approach the altar to perform sacrifices. The Kohen Hagadol, or the high priest, could even enter into the presence of the Ark of the Covenant, a status that could stir great envy. Thus, Moshe asked Korach's group, "Are you seeking the priesthood also?" Jacob warns us against this sort of self-magnifying ambition, as it brings with it great evil. He says at Jacob 3:16, "For where you have envy and self-ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice." Envy and self-ambition cause all kinds of trouble in our personal lives, not only at home or at work, but also in congregations and fellowships, as those who are neither qualified nor appointed seek position that Elohim never intended for them to occupy. Korach sinned by coveting the most prestigious role of the Aaronic priesthood rather than that of the Levitical servanthood. As a result, Elohim caused him and those who followed him to be swallowed up by the desert sand. This was a reminder to the children of Israel that sowing strife, questioning Elohim's authority, and exalting themselves to positions of leadership that they should not be in, ultimately leads to destruction. Proverbs 6:12 through 15 sums it up in this way: A base person, a man of iniquity, is he that walks with a rebellious mouth, that winks with his eye, that scrapes with his feet, that points with his finger. Rebellion is in his heart. He devises evil continually. He sows discord. Therefore shall his calamity come suddenly. On a sudden shall he be broken, and that without remedy. Pointing to the negative example of Korach, the rabbis caution that we should not befriend evil people. It's like, I think it, well, right now the exact address of the verse escapes me for now, but it says, what has light to do with darkness? Pointing to the negative examples of Korach, the rabbis caution, okay, been there. Pointing to the example of Korach, the rabbis caution that we should not befriend evil people. Proverbs 13:20 counsels that a companion of fools will suffer harm. This is one of the main lessons that we may learn from this Torah portion. Solomon, whose very name comes from the Hebrew word for peace, advises us to find wisdom which prevents us from following wicked, devious people. At Proverbs 2:12 through 15 reads, "To deliver you from the way of evil, from the men that speak rebellious things, who leave the path of unrighteousness to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice to do evil and delight in the rebelliousness of evil, who are crooked in their ways and perverse in their paths." We find in the Parsha that Moses told the people of Israel to move away from the tents of Korach, Datan, and Aviram, to keep from being destroyed by Elohim's judgment of their sins as well. All of this being said and done, this Parsha does not say that we should not minister to those who are caught in sin. We have read that Yahshua ate with and talked to sinners and social outcasts. He loved them enough to share the Bezorah of Elohim with them and call them to repent or to make teshuvah and to set themselves apart to Yahweh. He did not, however, allow their desires, their behaviors to influence or deter his appointment from Yahweh Elohim. Yahshua did not allow any outside influence to distract him from his calling. Likewise, we should not allow strife, jealousy, or self-magnification to distract us from our position as the children of Yahweh Elohim, or from the calling to which he has appointed us. We must be content with what Elohim has entrusted to us, and it's all very specific. There's a reason that he has for giving you what you have, what you are supposed to do, and there's not really one that's any more or less important to the body than what you are given, what you have been told to do. Yeah, you too, Zorro. With Yahweh Elohim as our Father and friend, we can trust him to meet our social, physical, emotional, and spiritual needs. History teaches us about the destructiveness of division. The Jewish historian Josephus recorded that the Jews of his time fought with each other, doing everything that the Roman besiegers could have desired. At the time of invasion of Jerusalem in AD 70, Titus and his Roman legionnaires found no less than 24 different factions fighting among themselves, each convinced that only they had the right way to ensure the deliverance of the Jewish people. The destruction of this second temple is linked to Sinat Hanam, baseless hatred between opposing factions. And that's kind of what we see today in ISIS, that there's each one says they have the right thing to do, that their way is the right way, that it's not do it or the highway, it's do it my way or you're going to die. Today the Jewish people still struggle with division and strife, as do many denominations of Christianity. We find that animosity and contention rise up between various sects of Judaism and the many denominations of Christianity. We find that the Christian church is plagued with many thousands of splits and denominational divisions, each one convinced that they have the truth while all others are in error. And I don't remember the exact number, but Michael has made a comment about being like so many tens of thousands different divisions of Christianity, the different factions that it says results in splits. And you look at some churches that I've heard about, that they will split the church over, well, the roof needs to be one color, and the rug that we lay down, the carpet we lay down on the floor has to be a certain color, and even